I rebuke the spirit of blooping in the name of Jesus. Highly unlikely. I shall clap my hands once and make sure. Hello, Alpha Female family, and welcome to the last episode for the year. Can you believe that we have actually gone through the year? I can't. It's been such an amazing, year for at least Alpha Female, and I'm so happy that you've been with us all of this time. For those who don't know, my name is Lungi, and I am your host, and this is where we have heterodox conversations that affect people of color, particularly women of color, through their voices and the voices of just people of color. So how far have we gotten this year? I think I started the year with lessons, particularly from myself, lessons that were ushering me into this year, right? And I shared some of those with you. And I promise you, like I said at the beginning of the year, some of these lessons come back. And I really think for me, at least in 2024, I have seen some of them being prominent in my life, right? And we then spoke about purpose with Farai. And she was so amazing. She shared how she lives a purpose-driven life and shared some gems on how we can start really honing in and looking into our own purpose and how we can prosper doing the things that we love. So if I may share with you, that stayed with me. So the greater part of this year, I've been doing like self-work and trying to gather why I'm on this earth, you know? And I think for me, Alpha Female forms part of that purpose. A lot of people for me this year told me how they feel like I'm the older sister, especially at work and other engagements, how I've shared knowledge with them. And so it kind of gave me assurance and validation of why I'm on the earth and how I want to grow it further. We also spoke about motherhood. Tough. This topic caused a stir on TikTok, okay, with Ukumo. And it just provided a different perspective of motherhood. I think we've always known motherhood to be this beautiful journey, which it is. But of course, there's processes that you go through and changes that you go through as a woman when you are a mother. And I think it was particularly interesting to have that perspective shared and, you know, challenge our thinking as well and have people engage in what they think motherhood did and what it did in their lives. Positive, negative, and sometimes both, right? And we had a conversation about friendship, which is something that I value so much and highly recommend. If you don't have a friend in 2024, a genuine, wholesome friendship, I encourage you to go into 2025 and find your people. I think it's so important to just find safe spaces to be, especially in the world that we live in now. Social media, so much negativity. It's so great to be embraced by people that love you, that know who you are, that want you to grow and be better. And I hope when you listen to that episode, you're encouraged to really evaluate the people around you and see if you, first of all, vibe with them really, and then see your future. Because the people that are around you actually influence how you think, how you talk, your language. So much comes with that influence. We had a girly chat recently with Lerato, just talking about our different views, you know, 30s versus 20s. And thank you for the support on that podcast episode. It was so massive. And I think it really showed that though we are in different generations, perspective matters and we can help each other. One thing I've learned from having mentees and people that are younger than me that I mentor is the value of reverse mentorship. We don't talk about it enough, but because you've come in with your own experiences, the certain things that you've learned, we often don't pause and think, this young person can teach me something. And that's always the case. Whether they are 10 years younger than you, 20 years young, I still learn something from my 8-year-old cousin. There's always something to learn. So that conversation kind of showed that although we're women, we have very different paths and experiences. There are similarities in our paths. There are some anomalies, but we can always learn from each other and have us grow, in different ways. We also spoke about personal branding. This is so important. If you don't take your brand seriously or yourself as a brand in 2025, we're going to come fetch you. We're going to come fetch you. If you're part of this family, I think in the world that we live in, it is so important to position ourselves for the futures that we want, for the opportunities that we want, and also show up authentically, which is very hard, especially with social media. But through what Usiba shared, that you need to know who you are, what you're bringing to the table, know what you want, and then attract and show up accordingly. That changed my life, so much so that I even have her as a coach right now. So you'll see some changes on Alpha. You'll also see some changes on my side. We kind of wrapped up with health and taking care of yourself and how much that is important. Without you in good health, there's nothing else that can happen. And it seems so trivial, right? When you think about it, why should health be like my priority? But honestly, I've experienced it personally. Because I've been hospitalized, you can't do anything. You can't do the work that you're chasing. You can't live your life fully. You're just trapped in that little room for however long until you get better. So before your body starts reminding you to actually take care of yourself, I think it's very important for us to prioritize that. And that's pretty much the year that we had. I can't believe that it's come to an end. But I hope that it really inspired you. You grew a lot going into the new year. Super excited about the episodes that we're going to have. Just looking at people's journeys a bit more and seeing how they became successful. Talking about topics like building self-confidence, showing up as a leader, how leadership forms cultures. There's a whole lot we have in store for you. So I hope that you stay tuned and you are a part of our family forever and ever. Amen. I also wanted to close off and just talk about 2024 as a year. For me, lo nyaka lo cishe wanginqa phansi. Copyright, Linda Matoba. But honestly, if I had to describe this year with one word, I would say it was just tough. It was tough. It was tough emotionally, physically, mentally, you name it. It was a very difficult year for me. However, there are certain things that I learned or reflected on that really made this year sort of like a pinnacle year for me. So if you are listening or watching and this resonates with you, I hope you can take something away from these now lessons closing the year. So I think the first one was just needing to face myself, right, in different ways. So you know how when you grow up, you've set certain goals. You want to be at a certain point by a certain age. You want the car. You want very physical things, but also softer. So for me, because this year I was getting these things, but not like I want them. Some of them kind of changed the trajectory of my life, especially career-wise. So I kind of sat and I was frustrated on what that means for me, the person that I'm becoming, how I want to show up. So it was really a year to face myself. And I think you'd never go wrong in investing time to just shed if you need to, take off the layers if you need to, and learn if you need to. Let go of certain versions of yourself that won't serve you in the new season, if that makes sense. So I was in the waiting season for the greater part of this year, and it felt like it was never going to end. But I realized when I was in it not to win it, just in it, that I need to shape my life a bit differently. And that required me to grieve the version of myself that I thought I would be and embrace the new version of myself that I will be, which is super exciting. So I pivoted. I'm changing careers sort of next year. I'm almost also changing the direction of Alpha Female because of this. And I think for me, that was very impactful. So if you are looking at your life and you're feeling like, 2024 was a mess and, challenging, but what is it? What was required of you to shed, to like take layers off so that you become the next best version of yourself? Because sometimes the best version of yourself is not the version that you thought you would actually have. It's the version that is required of you even by God so that his glory is just personified. And it's not your little idea. Maybe the idea that you have is too little for how far along you have to go. The other thing, talking about God, is learning to surrender. So initially I had spoken about letting go. That thing is tough, right? But I think with me, I had to absolutely absorb control. Yes, I was doing the work behind the scenes to get these things that I wanted, but the actual opportunity, I had to let it go and be like, okay, clearly, the direction that I really thought I'd move in is not working out. How about I try this? And it gave me so much peace. So that's how I knew, okay, I'm moving in the right direction. So a friend of mine once said, surrender is actually a posture. I think we often think when you surrender, you're giving up. You're not. You're doing the work, but you also, if you are a believer in God, you're also letting him have room to actually take over and guide your life and be in charge of the moment, which is, I think, was life-changing for me. And it took time to actually get there. It took time and tears. Oh, Bandla, I cried this year. I cried like a baby. It took time to get there. But I think once I did, I felt so much lighter and so much more empowered and so much more positive about the direction of my life. And the other one is so important because I think we all do it. Comparison steals joy. I died this year comparing myself to others. And sometimes not in a bad way, not in I wish I had the same thing as them, but more of a, who deserves to have ease and who deserves to have hardship, right? Looking at someone and thinking, but they are achieving everything that they wanted at one go, It looks like they're doing super well. When will my chance be? I am toiling so hard. I'm working so hard. But something I realized, which I had to accept this year, is the fact that everything is relative. In fact, there's a law in physics. If you did physics at school, you must know this. There's a law of relativity that Einstein has, and it speaks of how in physics some phenomenons are the same depending on your point of reference. So you even see it in speed, right? So when you're driving on the highway, sometimes relative to the car that you are driving, I don't want to say against, but you're looking at a car maybe next to you and stuff, it looks like it's barely moving because of your point of reference. However, if we were to put an observer on the side, they would see that car moving at 120 kilometers an hour. So everything is based on your perspective and your reference. So from the outside, most of the time, everything looks good. You look at someone and you're like, oh, they're living large. Oh, they smell nice. Oh, they shop at Skins. But you don't know what it takes to actually obtain that life. And you don't know what they're going through mentally and emotionally during the different seasons. So I had to learn that actually We are all in this life thing, doing our own thing, and ease and hardship are both our companionships at different points in life. So at a certain point, you may have a bit of ease. At a certain point, you may have challenges, but both are necessary and they come at different points. So our duty is to be present and to stay true to our journey. You know, that typical, what can I call it? That advice, Guti, you must stay in your own lane. It's so true. It is so true. I think if you focus on you, on what you have to do, it is so much more fulfilling, and it allows you to be happy for others instead of sitting there and being like, but when will be my turn? And when your turn comes, it only takes one opportunity to change your life. You know? And I think the last one, which was so important, is the difference between hard and soft goals. What I mean about that is when we start the year, we all have New Year's resolutions. I want to lose weight. I want to buy a new car. I want to buy that dream house. You know, there's very tangible goals that we have. And so what happens when we don't meet these tangible goals now at the end of the year, we feel horrible. We're like, oh my word, I've wasted the year. I haven't achieved anything. And then, you know, everyone will be kind of going through what they have done and you feel like you haven't done anything. But I have learned through this very tough year that even softer goals are amazing and they are equally important. Having good mental health, guys, is currency. We don't acknowledge it. So if you end the year and you're at a good place mentally, you have won. It might not be the car, it might not be something tangible, but it's something so important, and it's something that actually can keep you alive and elevate your experience on earth. Having good health, like being in good health, there's nothing broken, there's nothing falling apart, you know, you are healthy. That's also a blessing. So I've learned that some goals may not be tangible. Doing work on yourself, like doing self-work, looking at how you interact with people, looking at how you show up at work. Sometimes we have horrible bosses because they haven't dealt with their traumas. They're coming to work and they're dumping those traumas onto their subordinates or people that work for them. If you've done the work and you are facing your traumas head on, you've won. It's beautiful because now people can receive you in positive way. You can create a culture and a lighter environment at work. Being a great leader and a manager, hellos, people are leaving organizations because people are toxic. You have won. There's a list. There's a whole list of them. I will go on and on. But I think maybe going into 2025, what we should do for ourselves is also consider, what are my soft goals? What are my hard goals? And give props to both. Money is important. The achievements are important, but joy is important. Good mental health is important. Good relationships, like having great, solid relationships, equally important. And those should be put, according to me, according to me, should be put at the same level. And just to wrap up, I wanted to share 3 things that I'm grateful for. So I'm a huge believer that no matter how tough the year is, if you had a year like me, maybe there's always something to be grateful for, because our lives are made up of so many facets, not just the one thing that's going wrong, that if you look deeply, not all of your life is doomed. There's always something. So for me, the things that I'm grateful for 2024, the first one is just God. I think He really carried me this year. Without God, bandla, I don't know how I would have made it. But it's also having people that prayed and interceded for me, so much so that there's one opportunity or work opportunity I was looking for, and a friend of mine started praying like 2 days before and sent me screenshots of verses and whatnot as I was headed to the interview. I really, really appreciated that. So I think without that center or that core, I would have crumbled even further. So super grateful for that. The second is leaning into what I said about friendship, just having a great community. I cannot emphasize it enough. Having a community is, I don't know, it's one of life's experiences. In fact, research has shown that you live longer if you have strong bonds and relationships. And I understand why. Family, friends, church community. We live in a society where hyper-independence is sort of praised. I can do everything by myself. Nah, you don't have to. You really don't have to. Through my community, even now, I can communicate my goals and visions for this platform, and people are like, this is where we can meet you and help you. It is really life-changing. So I'm super grateful for my community and everyone around me who has just made this year what it was and made it worth living. The third is intentional joy. So something I was very purposeful about in this year is planning joy. I think every person should do it, especially Black people. If you're Black, please plan your joy. If you're a woman, please plan your joy. Inje, because I feel like sometimes we go through life and we have to be tough and strong and sacrifice ourselves and put everyone before us. But you forget yourself and you forget when to fill your cup. So although when you go 80% of the time this year, I was very intentional about still doing the things that I love, still going to jazz concerts, still being able to see my friends in between, traveling where I could, spending time with, my nieces, my nephew, and my friends' babies, things that really brought me joy. I made time for hiking, and I used to plan them. I planned them like they were a meeting. Some of them months in advance, paid in advance, whatever it took. And I think it made the year better, although I was facing challenges, but I knew that, okay, in September, I am seeing my favorite artist. And I encourage that for everyone. If you are a person who doesn't do this, please do right by yourself next year. So I'm super grateful that I was able to live this portion of my life intentionally and purposefully. Anyways, we can chat the whole day. However, we look forward to seeing you next year. There's lots in store for the podcast, and I look forward to have you join us further and journey with us as we have these conversations. For now, Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Have a great December. Enjoy, be with family, connect, and let's start the new year fresh and ready to rock. Bye.